Hi, I'm Tom, you're watching Sony 365 and this video is all about the Xperia 5 Mark III. I can't wait to show it to you, unbox this guy, especially given that it's been quite a few months since it was unveiled. I think it's high time we did this, don't you? Let's do it now. So just before I unbox this, I want to tell you about Tomoyaki Nishizaka. Here's a picture of him now. He deserves a big shout out. In fact, I'm going to leave a comment. I'm going to pin it below and we can all give him a thumbs up because he has been working on reducing the plastic used in Sony packaging. Sony's trying to completely eliminate it by 2025. And they are well on their way. And unlike a lot of companies out there, they make all of this public and they share with us their progress. So big shout out to him and to Sony for, actually I should say lending me this, of course, as they do all their phones. Thank you very much, Sony. I should have this for hopefully 2 weeks or more. But yes, that's important. The packaging is environmentally friendlier than you will get from the competition in a lot of instances, if not all. On the back here, as you'd expect, we have all of the logos and so on. But yes, I wanted to give a special mention because this is environmentally moving in the right direction. GM 2025, I'll put some more on the screen now for you to see. And I'll do a separate video on all of that very, very soon because it is important stuff. I often mention Sony is the ethical choice if you want the best of the best technology, and that's one of the reasons why. Anyway, without any further ado, let's take the 5 Mark III out, pop it down there on the table very briefly. We'll come back to it shortly. Here's the tray. And of course we get our USB-C to USB-C cable here. I'll show you that in just a second. And this is the power brick. The power brick, of course, is 30 watt fast charger. A lot of manufacturers don't give you that, anything like that. In fact, they don't even give you a charging brick at all. So it's nice to see that. I wonder how long Sony will keep giving us this sort of thing, but they do right now, and that's very welcome. As promised, unsurprisingly, it's a very straightforward, let me try and get that in front of the light there, very straightforward USB-C cable. And then finally, the event was in April and here I am in August giving you the first look at this black, shiny, because of course let's not forget this is not available in the frosted color schemes that we see with the bigger brother, the 1 Mark III. This is a fingerprint magnet. I can tell you that without even getting involved because it's glass and it's black, but it's very, very pocketable. Now let's take this off here. Now I'm just using a rubbish microphone, which is going to just have to do until I can get hold of the Sony, what's it called, EC1BCM or 1, I don't know. I'm not very good at remembering these names because they're incredibly difficult to remember. But anyway, let's get this turned on. Let me just remind you what we're dealing with here. This is of course the Xperia 5 Mark III powered by the Snapdragon 888 chipset, just like we get in its big brother, the Xperia 1 Mark III. We do not have a full 4K display here. This is full HD. And it's a 6.1 inch display, ever so slightly bigger than the 10 Mark III, which sits below it in the range, but nowhere near as big as the 6.5 inch 1 Mark III, which is it's a bit of a beast. All of these phones feel smaller than they really are and much more pocketable than they actually are because of that 21:9 form factor. Sony calls it cinema wide. It's perfect for watching movies, but it's also perfect for multitasking. I think that's why I enjoy it the most. It gives you a bigger screen experience, but it isn't heavy or bulky to sort of lug about. It's a real nimble so-and-so. I absolutely love the 21:9 form factor. Let me show you around the outside of the phone here if I can. Obviously, let's see if we can get away with this. USB Type-C down at the bottom here, microphone, front-facing stereo speakers, of course, on this device, which so many of us really appreciate and absolutely love. What have we got here? We have volume rocker, the fingerprint scanner, which is also the power button, of course. The Google Assistant button is down here as well. No, yes, it is. The Google Assistant button is there, and the dedicated camera shutter button, of course. Over on the back, it's almost identical to the 5 Mark II from last year, but we've got this bigger camera bump, of course, because we have this world first technology shared with the 1 Mark III, this telephoto. I mean, essentially it's 2 lenses in one. It gives us that extra flexibility. It's very, very cool, but it hasn't, with the 1 Mark III, dazzled me as much as perhaps I was expecting it to, but that's partly I let my expectations sort of run away with me there at the launch. But yeah, why not have it? It's great to have. And before I forget, I'm trying to line this up perfectly. The headphone jack is there. It's not just here with the 5 Mark III, but also the 1 Mark III and the 10 Mark III. So whichever Sony phone you choose this year, whichever price point and size of phone is right for you, you're gonna get a headphone jack. Very happy about that. Now the other thing, of course, is we have removable storage, which is not really something too common. Even in the flagships these days, it's sort of disappearing. The advantage of it here, of course, also is that with Sony, you don't need one of those pesky SIM ejector tools that I'm always losing, because it's really annoying when you want to get a new SIM card in there or something and you can't because you haven't got a tool with you to do that. You don't need that. You just need fingernails. It's good if you don't bite your fingernails and you just flip it open. So you can run this as dual SIM, or you can put in a micro SD card here up to 1 terabyte. Again, this is really, really cracking value, I think, to have all these features at this price point. And by the way, I just want to say, I don't know if it's my imagination, I'm going to try this out in a second, but my goodness, the fingerprint scanner here is absolutely rapid. It's so quick, and the haptics are really, really nice as well. Yeah, so far, first impressions, I love the size, I love the overall form factor. Yeah, this is making a very good first impression, but where I think we need to be careful here with the 5 Mark III is getting too carried away with this idea that it's giving us everything that the 1 Mark III is giving, except for the screen size and resolution, but at a lower price. Because sure, the price is lower, but there are a few other omissions that are really important to know about. Okay, so first up, you do get Corning Gorilla Glass Victus on the 1 Mark III on the front and Gorilla Glass 6 on the back with the 1 Mark III, but with the 5 Mark III, this guy here, it's Gorilla Glass 6 front and back. There's no Victus at all. Again, I don't know how much faith I put in this, the Victus stuff, but I mean, yeah, the basic thing here is if you drop it, you never know if you're going to get lucky or if it's going to smash to pieces. But it does seem tough. It seems very, very well built, unsurprisingly. And I have dropped my Xperia 1 Mark II here, which I've got the 1 Mark III and the 1 Mark II here. I've dropped the 1 Mark II from about 1.5 meters onto a sort of tiled floor twice in a year, and it survived both without any visible damage whatsoever. So yeah, I think we can feel pretty confident about that. It's funny, I've just put the 1 Mark III and the 5 Mark III side by side, and I'm looking at them and they don't look that different in size, but when you get them both in the hand and you use them, they feel dramatically different. So yeah, it is worth saying that the numbers are a little bit misleading. If you want something that really does feel compact, I know that's controversial to use the word compact because these are not really as small as the old compact Sony phones that we were used to not that long ago, really. But yes, it does feel dinky compared to the 1 Mark III, and the 1 Mark III feels much easier to operate than something like an S21 Ultra. But anyway, let's get on, as I said, with the things that the 5 Mark III doesn't have, but the 1 Mark III does have. I want to start, of course, by talking about the onboard storage and the RAM. So the bottom line here is that the 1 Mark III has 12 gigs of RAM. Yes, my version has 256 gigs of onboard storage. You can get 512 gig versions, but not where I am. But the 5 Mark III has 8 gigs, not 12, of RAM. Again, there are different versions available depending on what territory you're in, but you're looking at 128 gigs of onboard storage or 256. Now, I've already mentioned that you don't get that beautiful frosted finish that you do on the 1 Mark III on the 5 Mark III. That's a real pity, I think. Yeah, that's for me, that's a bit of a bummer, because I really love this new frosted finish. It just looks the business. It's less of a well, it's not a fingerprint magnet, and I love that. But the other thing that's perhaps a bit more serious is there's no wireless charging. Never mind fast wireless charging or reverse charging if you want to pop your WF-1000 XM4s on there. Very cool. Now look, a lot of you out there are not remotely interested in wireless charging, and I respect that. The only thing I would say about it is I have read that after several years, and we are talking 5, 6, 7 and so on, if that USB connector, you know, that sort of port there starts to fade, starts to not connect properly ultimately, which I have read it can happen. It's not common, but it does happen. It's nice to have the wireless charging as a backup. I actually know Pixel owners who are really happy that they have wireless charging for that very reason. They don't really use it until the USB connector goes, and then it really comes into its own. So again, is that a big deal? For most of you, I suspect not, but got to flag it, haven't we? But for most people, the two most important things here are we do not get that big 4K ultra luxurious display, and we don't get that big price tag that we get with the Xperia 1 Mark III. So, you know, it's a really interesting proposition, a really interesting trade-off here. And I love the fact that you do get those really juicy flagship specs in a pocketable, compact form factor. Maybe not as pocketable as some as you might like, but my goodness, yeah, this is a really interesting one. The other thing that's really interesting, of course, is that we do get that same 4,500 milliamp hour battery that we get in its bigger brother, the 1 Mark III. So I'm expecting, given that it's powering a lower resolution screen and a smaller screen, I'm expecting better battery life than its bigger brother. And I don't know, I'm expecting this to potentially be an easier phone to live with on the day-to-day, but again, let's see in the full review. I'm going to spend 2 weeks on this phone and I cannot wait. So both of these phones have the wonderful notification light, which I really hope Sony sticks with forever. They both have those wonderful front-facing stereo speakers, the headphone jack. They both have Wi-Fi 6, they both have Bluetooth 5.2, they both come out the box with Android 11, NFC, as I mentioned, they both have those huge 4,500 milliamp hour batteries. They both charge mighty quickly. You're going to get about 50% in 30 minutes, well, so they say. That certainly seems to be the case with the 1 Mark III. I'd be surprised if it wasn't the case with the 5 Mark III, but I will test it. And both of these phones, of course, have that beautiful, pure Android experience, but with that sprinkling of Sony magic that just really makes that form factor sing. You know, with things like multitasking, just getting the most out of this beautiful 21:9 aspect ratio. It's a very compelling proposition, and I cannot wait to test out the 5 Mark III. If you've got any questions that you want me to address in the full review, please do leave them in the comments section below. Actually, my next video is going to be part 3 of my 1 Mark III series of videos. It's going to be the full review and final verdict on that. I made a few changes, so it's a little bit later than I would have liked, and then I'm going to do the photography special just after that, and by then we'll be ready for the 5 Mark III full review. So thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom from Sony 365, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And if you haven't already, please do consider liking and subscribing, smashing the notification bell, and not least because we're going to be doing some competitions for Sony products not all that far away from now. You heard it here first. Thank you so much for watching.